All right, thank you all for joining. Did you know the ESCO HVAC show? We are so glad to be hanging out with you again. I'm actually out on the road this week. It was actually a week of vacation for me, but I can't miss this show. This community of HVACR professionals is growing, and we're so glad to be here. And I just didn't want to miss it. I have so much fun. So we're going to continue our conversations over airflow. Remember, we've been spending the first Monday of each month with Chris Mahaly from Regal Rexnord talking about ECM motors and airflow characteristics. So let's move it up a notch a little bit and let's talk about airflow in ways that we can actually measure airflow, right? Before we use charts, especially when we're looking at PSC motors and we would take static pressures and we could, look at what CFM we should be running on a system. But what if you could actually measure your airflow and get real deep diagnostics for it? If you think about, like, when we go to a doctor, we go to a professional, they'll take our blood pressure, to see how much pressure is flowing through our system. Kind of like when we're doing with external static pressure, we're looking at a pressure of a system. But when we do like a stress test, now we're taking the pressure and we're evaluating the system under a load, and we can look at the performance of our body in an actual stress test. Well, that's really what we're talking about as we move further down the road of system performance, understanding how a system is performing and measuring that performance. And if we do it properly, we can measure the performance of an existing system and be able to look at the future to see what a new system would look like. And that is a big deal. So today we've got our good friends from over at the Energy Conservatory. Chris Hughes, how you doing, my friend?
Fantastic, Clifton. Man, I think you covered all the bases for me.
I hope I try to set it up for you. And everyone is joining in. Let us know where you're at. I'm actually out on the road in southern Indiana. I'm down here at the West Baden French Lick Resort, a historic resort down in southern Indiana. Just taking a little time off and exploring. Hey, thanks, Jose, for joining us. Chris, where are you at?
I am out the good old boot, man, right here in Louisiana.
There you go. How's the weather down there?
Weather comes and goes, good, bad, but the food's always good.
Oh, man. I've actually never been to Louisiana, so
Oh, man,
I'm looking forward to the food someday.
Well, anytime you get down here, I'll just one phone call away.
I love it. All right, so Chris, let's dive into the presentation a little bit and set us up with a little bit about the Energy Conservatory, because not everyone is familiar with TEC and what it brings to the building science perspective, and that includes residential building sciences.
Sure. So the Energy Conservatory, if I could sum it up real easy, is a manufacturer of tools for pressure and flow for the residential and commercial and industrial market. Our flagship products would be the blower door and the DG1000 micromanometer.
Yes.
That is kind of what we're known for. That is, when you're trying to check out infiltration on a home, or if you're doing a big building test and you want to pull a vacuum or pressurize the building, you want to know the leakage rate of that building.
That's right.
So building science, essentially,
Yep.
right? We've made our name there. So going back a few years, there was a device that was invented at the company called the Trueflow, right? And it kind of looked like a science project. It wasn't really, it was sort of difficult to use, right? It had tubes coming out of it. And this is before the days of Bluetooth. Like Bluetooth wasn't around.
I remember that, hardwired.
It wasn't an immensely successful takeoff of a tool, right? Some industry picked it up and used it. Some people didn't. The ones I would say like Hughes Raiders of the world who had volumetric airflow and were pushing the bar for success on a level of like maybe they had to take that measurement according to a standard.
Yep.
They were kind of dabbling with that tool. But the engineers got together at TEC when Bluetooth was really starting to come around and get really good. And they decided, man, we could really make this thing wireless. We could make it a lot cleaner. We could
easier to maneuver and
we could make this easier to use. So they did. And that brought us to the digital Trueflow, which is what you'll see on the screen to the right side of the blower door. So the company's kind of like now growing heavily in the HVAC department. There's the HVAC division on the right, building science division on the left. It's all one family, but everybody kind of plays a role. So
we get that.
Flow hit the market. That's the time I showed up and came on board and wanted to. Happy to be here. And I knew like that tool needed an HVAC presence. So I kind of seen
residential.
Right. So I talked to the owners, actually met them at a conference down in Florida, and we talked about it. And I was super interested in going on board and learning some stuff from them. But I felt like I was a good fit coming from the field and being an HVAC technician my
Yeah,
whole life. I was like, I could probably be a good advocate for this company.
absolutely.
So I came on board, and yeah, and here we are a few years later now. It's been a fun ride, but yeah, it's super entertaining. And I'm here to talk it up and talk about airflow, and got a lab set up. Going to try to do some fun demo, and willing to take any questions anybody wants to throw in the chat. So we get in the demo, if you got a question, just throw it out there. Clifton, you may have to throw it back at me so I can
Yep,
hear it. But
absolutely.
we'll talk it out, man. We're gonna have some fun today.
Yeah, this is an interactive conversation. This whole community is here to support each other. And you guys are doing some things that are very advanced for the residential industry, but is becoming a norm. And as we talk about in this latter part of this conversation, it is a tool that can make your job so much more successful, so much more efficient. And as we move into new technologies, almost crucial for understanding how a system is performing and how it could and should perform.
I'll tell everybody in the chat a secret.
Yep.
If you hang in there long enough through this, you're going to see the future of what this tool can do, and you're probably going to be pretty excited about it.
I'm looking forward to
Let
it.
something out of the bag that ain't out yet,
That's
and
right.
it's pretty awesome. But we'll get there.
All right, let's dive into this thing. You got me excited now.
Okay. Well, we should probably go over why we want to measure airflow, right? Because we need to drive the importance of airflow. So I built a couple slides. I just want to run through. They're quick, easy, repetitious for a lot of folks, but let's get through it, right? So let's shoot over it. So why airflow matters, right? So here's just a performance chart that I threw together, right? Where I'm showing this is a 5-ton unit and it's moving. You could either select, 1,550 CFM, 1,750, or 2,000. But you notice I've kind of, blew up that little screenshot of the 95 outdoor, 63 indoor wet bulb with a 75-degree indoor dry bulb, right? Design conditions of perfection of what you want, right? When those are projected over to the side, you can notice that our BTU capacity changes. So airflow can directly affect your total capacity. And to get a little deeper in that, it's going to affect your sensible and your latent capacity. They're both going to move. Sometimes they'll go up. Like one maybe go up while one goes drastically down, depending on which way you do it.
Sure.
So I got another slide on that. If our airflow is changing, what also is changing is our sensible heat factor. Now, the sensible heat factor is essentially, it's the ratio, right? Yep. So here's the deal. Your evaporator coil is going to remove water and drop temperature. And I probably sound like a broken record to a lot of people out there, but just going to lay it out there. Anytime you adjust airflow, you're going to either increase or decrease the water removal capacity of the indoor coil.
Sounds legit.
Now, anytime you are removing less water because you've jacked up the fan speed, then you're going to be more efficient and you're going to get more capacity. And anytime you lower the fan speed, you're going to have lower total capacity, right? And more water removal. So that's how it works, right? So we need to be looking at performance data whenever we're wanting to, design an air conditioner for a house. It matters, right? And this all goes back to the blower door. How do we know what the right sensible heat factor is? Well, we need to know the home, right? And that's when we start getting into building science. Right. But that's getting a little deep, and we got like an hour. And
that's a great follow-up conversation right there, because a lot of people don't understand. There are a lot of times we're plugging in calculations and we're using factors that are pre-existing numbers, right? Not measured numbers. We're just using numbers that have been used for a long time. And now that we have the tools to measure properly, we can get more accurate results. And especially as we get into inverter technology, we're going to be required to know how the system is performing in a much higher detailed way than we have in the past. And it's really what we're leading into.
I will say, anybody who's ever seen me talk, this is what I'm adamant about. If you come to a training I've done, you'll hear me say the word action items. I love it because I feel like anytime you go sit in a classroom with somebody, the whole purpose is to leave with something you're going to put to use in the field when you leave.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
if you're not getting that message to someone, then I feel like you're just not giving it all you had as an educator.
No, you're just watching another show. You're not actually putting it into function.
Right. So make it short and sweet. This is just a little screenshot picture I'm putting there. And all I'm saying is if you walk into a home and that home is, not feeling comfortable, it's muggy, there's too much moisture in the air. You know, could it need a full-blown investigation? Yes. But would I start checking airflow? Yeah, probably would. I'd want to make sure that I'm not moving way too much air and leaving a whole lot of moisture removal capacity on the table that the air conditioner could be doing for me. That's where I'd go with it. Right. And then if it's already there, at least I know in my mind it's where it needs to be. And then I take it to the next step.
Sure.
So, all right. So that's my spill on why we should measure airflow.
Okay. That's a good intro.
Okay. So, we can't go there yet. We got to save that.
Okay. Yeah, let's please do. That's really why we're here. We're here to learn about this tool. And it takes a lot of education on the home and on the system to know what it's going to take to make changes. Someone could go in, listen to the input from the homeowner, which is not always legitimate input. It's an evaluation of, something that they're witnessing. And we can make changes, and then we can check back and, look for some more of that input from the homeowner. But what if we actually use analytics? We take measurements and we plug them in so that we have true formulas, true outcomes that we can base our adjustments from. And that's really the importance of doing proper measurements. We can't have an output if we don't have proper inputs. We're really just guessing if we're not.
I love it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show everybody today how Trueflow works. And I welcome the questions and I welcome the challenges.
Yeah.
We're going to fire up another live stream, and I have a lab that's set up right behind me. My wife's going to help me. So she's going to run the stream from my phone while I go work in the lab. And I'm going to do a quick mic switch here so we can, Clifton, if you don't mind,
I'll take over for a minute and I'll make sure people have some resources. For those of you that are joining us who want to learn a little bit more about TEC, the Energy Conservatory, I do have a QR put together to get you over to their website. And you'll also see them at AHR. You'll see them down at HVAC School Symposium. You'll see them at our conference, the National HVACR Education Conference. And we really hope you all join us so you can get your hands on this. You can actually learn from the educators in front of a piece of equipment and see it in action so that you can get more comfortable with what we're discussing. We're talking about using tools to make ourselves more efficient.
Clifton, you got me?
I got you.
All right. So I think we are.
Let's try it.
Can you see me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Oh, let me tighten this up. Is it loose? Give me 1 second.
No, not a problem. We will hang out here until we get things going. And so for anyone who has any questions or comments in the chat, please bring them in. Remember, we're here to learn together. We're all here to spend time with the top educators of the industry so that we can get firsthand information and we can get better at what we do. I mean, it's hard to teach something unless we're comfortable with it. And many of us, when we make that transition from the field into the classroom, technology continues to grow around us and we have a lot to catch up to. And that's why we try to bring in the top professionals every week to be able to give you the resources, the tools to know what's happening in the industry and the supply of resources to follow up. This is an introduction. How do we learn more? How do we dive deeper? Well, we get to know the instructors and we get to know the companies the same. All right. Oh, I've lost some audio. Let me bring this one in. I think it was because of this. Hold on, Jack. Might have been on me, Chris. Try that now.
How about now?
Yeah, there we're good. I have to leave this other video feed over on the side. That's on us.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do a Trueflow rundown right here. We're in my office. We've got my TV right here. So we've got the Trueflow. I'm casting this app. So just to let everybody know what it looks like, this is the Trueflow app.
Yeah, make sure to
Right?
grab that.
So I'm going to open that up, and this is the home page. So to talk about this for a minute, this workflow at the top, system airflow and static pressure. That workflow will do pressure mapping and airflow. If you don't know what that means, hang in there because that's the workflow we're going to do. But just to
Awesome.
cover our bases, this
Yeah.
is system airflow if I just want to get airflow. This is 310 airflow if I just want to get an airflow measurement with a designed target airflow measurement. That's what that's for. That's that whole standard 310 thing.
Sure.
Then I could connect to my pressure gauge if I wanted to. But this is the one I want to run, system airflow and static pressure. That's what we're going to do today, right here.
Okay.
Now, let's cover the tools. So this is the digital Trueflow Grid.
Well, that's cool.
So it's a grid, right? It's an airflow measurement device. It's heavy duty, right? You drop it, more than likely not going to break. It's got a power button on the left side. We're going to hold it down until it flashes and then let it go. Once we do that, it's powered up.
So rechargeable or battery operated?
Rechargeable batteries. Yep.
Okay.
You'll get about 22 hours of use out of this thing if you ran it nonstop.
Yeah.
Right. So this is an adapter plate. This is our 14 by 20. It's our smallest plate. This demo unit is I break it down. I take it to conferences to train on.
Oh, yeah.
But this Trueflow snaps into the adapter plate like so.
Okay.
Right? So snaps into the adapter plate. The adapter plate is gasketed to make a good seal when it goes into a return air grill. It could also fit in a return air slot.
Sure.
You
Absolutely.
So it can be used in a slot, can be used in a filter grill.
So I'm assuming one tool, multiple adapters for different filter sizes.
You beat me to it.
No, all right. Sorry about that.
So here's another one of our larger adapter plates. This is the 20 by 30.
Wow.
Right? So it goes up to 24 by 30. That's our largest adapter plate.
Okay.
Okay. So a question we get quite often is, well, what if I have multiple returns?
Yeah.
Well, we've got that problem figured out. So this situation actually has returns. There's a return back here, and there's a return on the front.
Okay.
One little tip that I've come to learn with my kit, I've ran it with friends in the field. Every now and then I'll go jump in the truck with a guy to go deploy the tool, keep my feet wet, right? So I took a large contractor garbage bag when I have a double multiple return, and when the fan's running, I'll lay it up against the return at the ceiling and let it suck it tight. That has worked well for me for a quick way to blank off the additional return, but we're going to get to that.
Okay.
All right. We're going to run the basic test, right? Right now, this return on the back has a filter in it that I have masked off. So it is blanked off. There's no airflow coming in from that side. Okay?
All right.
So we have a single return air grill in this application. Okay. This here is our DG8 manometer. It works with the digital Trueflow Grid. And I'll do a close-up with you for that one.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our grid.
Yep.
And this is our DG8. Just like the grid, we're going to hold the button to the left, and we're going to power it up, let it go, and now we're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay. In the kit, you'll get tubing and a static pressure probe.
Yeah.
Right? Just give everybody a visual on that.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Okay. Now, let's get started on the app. So, go to the house, system's running. If for some reason that the fan on this air conditioner is too noisy, I can turn it off and turn it on. So, Clifton, let me know if it gets too noisy and the audio is not good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we've got our system fan running. We're going to do that top workflow we were talking about, right? So, we're going to make that selection. Next slide you're going to get to is connected to your hardware. So, we're going to hit the plus symbol. That's going to connect us to our gauge. We're going to hit the next plus symbol. That's going to connect us to our grid.
Sure, we'll get both of them in.
Automatically going to ramp us to our next page.
Right.
Now, I am the beta user, product manager of this tool for the company. Just to let you know, what you're seeing now doesn't exist on the market. So don't look at heat mode yet, but it's getting really close.
Yeah, it got my curiosity.
Is right there. Okay?
I've seen this before. I've not seen that.
This is a fun. There's a lot of people who've been wanting this.
Oh, yeah.
Heat mode is coming. I am currently in beta test mode of heat mode right now. So it's in beta mode, and I'm test running it.
Okay.
But we're going to go into cool mode because this is where the app started, right? We're going to do our cool mode test.
Right.
Right. We have an air handler and a furnace. These are big buttons, right? So obviously right here we have an air handler. So we're going to select air handler, right? We have an upflow, downflow, or horizontal install.
Sure, direction, yeah.
So we have a upflow. We're going to make that selection. Then we're going to get to the last page we have to enter information with. This is the system's details page. So we're going to start with cooling capacity. Now, in this selection, you want to go off what the outdoor unit tells you. Now, I don't have an outdoor unit connected to this, okay? But if I did, it should be a 2-ton. So we're going to select 2. We just put the number 2. We click OK. We're going to do air filter location. We're doing the filter grill. Now, remember, we have filter slot in the duct or cabinet, which I showed earlier. But look down here, multiple filter grills, okay? We can do another workflow if you'd like to see multiple filter grills. We're going to keep it simple. We're going to do filter grill.
Yep.
Right. This one, cooling climate, okay? We have 350 CFM per ton, 400, and 450. Okay, and we've got a little information right here. We're going to default to 400 CFM per ton. If I live in Louisiana and I don't have a load calculation on this house,
okay,
I live in a very, very humid climate. If I walk into a house and I don't have the blower door number, I don't have a load calculation, my gut would tell me I'll go to 350 CFM per ton. Why? Because we just talked about it. We want to pull as much moisture as we can out of the house with the air conditioner so we can make the house comfortable. Now, if I know more about that house and I can prove that it needs 400 or even 450 in that climate, I could bump the airflow up. But just getting started, I do 350 CFM per ton where I'm at. We're going to click the next button once we're done with that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, once we've made those selections, that's all the information we have to enter about our system.
Oh.
Now, test instructions. This is when we want to look at our install and make sure we don't have anything like a humidifier. Like we don't want any
no bypassing air
being routed around the evaporator coil. So our evaporator coil is right here, right?
Yep.
We don't want to duct from the return to the supply that's bypassing the coil. Essentially, then we'd be getting it. We wouldn't be measuring the airflow across the evaporator coil, which is what we want.
Yep, exactly.
So what that test instructions is telling us is just make sure if there's any bypasses, we got them closed.
Sure.
So we click continue. Now we're off to the races. Here's what I love about this app. Every time you make those workflow selections, we will paint you a picture of the install that you just entered, right?
Yeah.
So you'll notice our filter is in the grill. If you select filter slot, we're going to rotate that picture and put it right here. And we have those dots, right? That's showing you where to put your static pressure probe when you're taking these measurements.
In that application.
So we're saying return duct, right? So I'm going to set our Trueflow out the way for a second. Right now, we're just using the DG8, and we're just static pressure mapping the system. That's what this is called. We're pressure mapping the system. So we're going to go into the return, right? And we're going to take that measurement. So our return ductwork, filter and return ductwork, is 0.356 inches of water column. Sure. Now you'll notice the app already jumped to the supply and moved our pressure location up to the supply.
Secondary measurement.
So we're going to make that jump with it. We're going to take it out. We're going to put it in the supply. We're going to point that static pressure probe into the direction of the airflow.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to click take measurement again. You're going to see that bar going across the screen. Now, as it goes across the screen, it's going to take about 10 seconds. We're going to capture static about 100 times and then average that measurement.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. You know, Chris, one of the questions that came in from Jose was, can the equipment be used as a HERS testing device?
Say that one more time.
So the question came in, can the equipment be used as a HERS testing device for HERS ratings?
Yes. So I don't know all their rules, but here's what I'll tell you. Standard 310 allows for 4 methods to measure airflow, and they are pressure matching. You can use TESP, which is static pressure mapping. Mm-hmm. You can use a flow hood, and you can use a Trueflow Grid. That's your 4 methods you can choose from if you're executing like a standard 310 test.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. So we are in the supply. We've got our measurements. So we've we've captured what we at TEC call normal system operating pressures, NSOP. We click continue. Now the app's going to tell us, pull out the filter, install the Trueflow Grid, but leave the grill open. Okay? So right now what we're going to do, we're just going to take this grill off, move it out of the way. We're going to take our filter out. We're going to put our grid in place. Okay? Grid's there. Now, we're going to take a measurement. Once again, just to be clear, we're going to take about 10 seconds to go across that screen. Now, two things are happening right now.
Okay.
We're taking multiple readings at the same time across the grid, about 100 readings, and we're taking about 100 readings in the same location in the supply like we did before, okay? Then we're averaging both. Then we're doing a correction factor. I'll explain that in a second. All right, we've got our measurement. We're going to click continue, workflow complete, and now we can name it. So we're just going to call this lab test, all right? We're going to click save, and this is what we get. All right, once we've done that work, we are totally done with the Trueflow on that air conditioner. That is the speed we can execute trying to get an airflow measurement.
What, 5 minutes tops?
5 minutes. Now, maybe a little longer if you're in a house, right? I got the air conditioner. It's all right here. It's got
pretty easy access. You didn't have to move any lights.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
So we have an airflow dial, right? And this airflow dial and TESP dial, right? These are built from advice from Ed Jonawak from ACCA. Me, Steve Rogers. There was a lot of people who poured our minds into these dials, right? But look what we got right here. 376 CFM per ton. So we're in the green. Awesome. 752 CFM per the 2 ton. So we're right in between 350, 400 CFM per ton. Total external static pressure, 0.539, right? In the green.
Man, I love this. It's a go, no-go.
Filter and return duct drop, 0.356. Supply plenum pressure, 0.183. Clifton, this is a beautiful operating system.
I have got to get my hands on one and try.
We can prove it.
Yeah.
Now here's the beautiful thing.
Okay.
We can click the continue button right here. Now, what I'm going to do is I can enter my customer's information. I can enter my address. We can geotag that, company info. What I like is adding equipment photos.
Look at you.
So let's see. Jana, show that for him right there.
Yeah.
So what my wife's showing right now is me taking a picture of my job.
Yeah.
So I'm going to capture that photo. Because let's just say I want to take some measurements off that and I want to quote a new install or something like that.
Absolutely. So this is a contractor's dream.
Use photo. I'm going to go back and now I'm going to generate a report. So from my tablet, what I've done now is I've generated a report with all the relevant information you've seen on what I like to call the technician-friendly screen. Right? Now this is your homeowner's report. You'll notice at the bottom down here, my pictures are going to land on the second page. I can take my pictures and attach them to the report. Then I can click the share tab and I can just email it or text it wherever I want it to go.
Man, what a validation tool.
Yep.
I mean, think about that job where you're going out to evaluate it, a call, hey, I have poor airflow. And even if it's just a coil cleaning and a technician does a 5-minute pre-test, get an idea what's going on, do a complete system clean check, clean coil, validate it with a second follow-up, you're showing how much of an improvement you have on the performance of that system and the airflow moving through that duct.
Yep. All right. And so I just want to point out down here in the save button, right? This is where your tests are going to, when we saved it earlier during the workflow, they land here. So we can pull that test back up at any time we want.
Yeah, sure.
Right. We can also hit the pencil and we can make some adjustments. Like if we didn't want to do 350, we wanted to do 400, we could make that change. We could go back. You'll see the airflow dial adjust because of that. So just for example, let's say if I wanted to make it even worse and I wanted 450, that puts my dial in the yellow. The reason I wanted to show you that is because now look what we have, problems detected.
Right.
Now, this is something that gets skipped, I think, a lot in this app. And this is where a lot of homework went into but so I'm trying to point it out so it gets some attention. You see
Right.
this little button right here that says details?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of homework went into this. If you click details, low flow pressure is okay. Poor system efficiency, increased blower speed. Blower or evaporator coil may be dirty, inspect and clean. The circulation blower may be dirty, broken, and or running very slowly. What I'm getting at here is we've took a lot of time to pour in what we think are all of the faults that would cause any one of those dials to turn yellow or red
Nice.
for every air conditioner. Whether it's when you get to heat mode's coming out. It doesn't matter if it's a furnace, a heat pump, electric resistance only, whether you're in cool mode or heat mode. Basically, we've sat down and thought about all the failures that are going to cause those dials to go into the yellow or the red. And we've displayed them over here in the details. So if you ever look at the dials and you're like, what should I do?
Right.
The details are going to give you those action items.
We talk about the shortage of technicians in our industry constantly. What a fantastic way for a technician to spend 5 minutes and be in the right direction. It's a lot of work you guys have put into that.
Yep, absolutely. And still a lot of work that's going to happen. Okay, so any questions from the crowd? Anybody got any questions? Anybody want to see anything crazy? Because I'm happy to just throw it down, man. This is open book right here. We've got a working fan motor. If they want to see it, I'll throw it at them.
Jose's got a great question. So when we start talking about technology, we are increasing the capability of software regularly. If someone decides to invest in TEC equipment, does future generation of upgrades come with any type of software versions that can be, firmware updates?
So TEC has historically never charged for a piece of software. They have, that's one thing they kind of prided themselves in not doing. Yes. So we've actually been through more than one iteration of the Trueflow app, if you believe it or not. For example, if you look down here in the settings, we are on version 1.4.9. I remember when I came on board and we were like on 1.0.
Oh, really?
So there's been a lot of iterations that have been thrown out to the world. I think the live working version, I believe, is don't quote me, but it was like 1.4.6 right now that everybody has. Sure. So we've made improvements. There's actually quite a few improvements if you look at the screen real closely that aren't out yet that are coming. For example, we've got the consumer can use SCFM. You can use ACFM. You can pick between the two. That's a new addition.
Yeah, see that.
Here's one that people have been talking.
Yeah.
There's one that people have been talking about for a while.
Oh, boy.
Use the manufacturer's max total external static pressure. So what does that mean? So I'll just kind of show you what that means. Get back into this workflow. All right, let's see. Hang on. I'm in beta mode, so bear with me. So if something's broken, it's because we're running and I haven't found the fault yet. All right, we're going to toggle that on. So when I toggle that on and I do that same workflow, I'm going to connect to my devices again. All right, cooling mode. Let's say it's an air handler, upflow. Now, we've got one additional setting here, max TESP. It's default to 0.8. Let's say you've got a furnace, you go look up the literature, and the literature on the furnace says it's 0.5 maximum TESP.
Yeah.
You're going to touch that. You're going to enter 0.5. You're going to click OK. And there you go. Now, what's going to happen with that? We're going to, when you make that switch in the settings in the back, when you get to measuring and all the dials come into play on that technician-friendly screen, what I mean by that is this screen here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of these dials are going to adjust for you. All of these settings will be changed based on the new TESP that you have dictated in the app. So that's a new feature that's about to drop, along with heat mode.
Yep. Another good question came in. Boy, you've really got Jose excited. Jose, we're so glad that you joined us. These are phenomenal questions because you're seeing the big picture, right? So, Chris, the question that Jose has, can this program produce reports in PDF format that can be sent to the customer?
So when you go to saved and you get to this report right here, when you click continue and you generate a report, that is a PDF report.
That's what I thought.
When you click share and you email that, I'll send it right now. I'm going to give everybody Clifton's email.
Yeah. Hey, please do. See Beck at escogroup.org. Love to hear from all of you.
We're going to say lab tests. Look at that.
Look at that.
Bam. I just sent that report to Clifton right now. So now Clifton has the results from our lab test that we just did. There you go, Clifton.
Look at that.
Now he's got my PDF. All right. So that was fun.
I love it.
All right.
So it came a long way. And as we start looking at our higher efficiency, higher performing systems, it's going to be very important for technicians to have a better understanding of how we're operating. Back on over.
Okay. You can kill that. Let's make this.
Okay, let's try audio. I may have to turn the other one back on.
There we go. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Sorry. Forgot to make this.
Hey, another question that did come in, Chris.
Yep.
So a question came in, is this a new program? I assume from TEC.
A new program.
Yeah.
So it's relatively new. I would say the Trueflow has been out for about 2, maybe 3 years now.
That's about when I seen it.
Right. So, but it's definitely evolving. Right. The company didn't rush to market with it. Right. So remember, this is TC is historically known as a building science community. So you can imagine the guys there who, they weren't buried in the HVAC trade. All right. They didn't have the dirt under their fingernails from the HVAC side of the world. They definitely got dirt under their fingernails from building science. I'm talking big time. So, when you go to market with a product like this, the homework's been done, but you got to wonder, what are people going to think? Are they going to like us? Are they going to like what we're trying to do? Are we stepping on people's toes? I mean, there's a lot to it. So, there was definitely a lot of changes I made when I came in. When I got my hands on the product, I was like, there's some things I don't like. And so
make it technician friendly.
Yeah, there were absolutely. So we made some, man, took me in like family and allowed me to really beat this thing up right in the beginning and make some changes to it that I really liked. So it's been a good ride, but all in all, I'd say, yeah, it's still new.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic.
So, all right, you want to see what the future holds?
Yeah. Where do we go from here? I mean, when I was in the tech service side, so I spent, quite a few years doing dealer onboarding and site visits for tech support. When we start talking about new equipment, particularly when we get into modulating equipment like inverters, a lot of people don't understand the impact of static pressure, let alone on ECM motors. Now we're getting into variable capacity compressors and, thermostatic expansion valve operation. We're getting into precision controls and operation. So we need to have a better understanding of what our systems are even capable of doing, because unfortunately, a lot of contractors will look at a system, go, hey, you got a 3-ton single stage, blah, blah, blah. I think I'm going to put a 3-ton inverter on this thing and you should be good to go. And like Todd said earlier, if we're not measuring, we're guessing. So when we start looking at our systems and trying to evaluate, hey, is my current system, what is it capable of doing?
Yes.
What can I do?
So 2 things I want to throw out there real quick. One, a question just came in about VR training. So here's what I can answer with that. One, in the settings of the app, there's a toggle called demo mode. If you toggle demo mode on, it will allow you to connect to fake hardware that's not real, and it will allow you to run through a test without needing to buy the gear. So if you want to use it as a training tool for your classroom,
it's perfect for that.
Download the app, it's free, turn on demo mode and let it rip. Right?
Wow.
Okay. So 2, going back to what you're saying, Clifton, about what the future holds in this trade. Well, for those who maybe have been living under a rock, they know we're getting heat pumps just like poured down our throat, right? like give me a heat pump.
Yep.
There's a lot of money coming in behind.
I want my tax credits. How do I get them?
Tax credit. Yeah. I think they're probably kind of handed them out, and now there's maybe a little backpedaling going on. I don't know. You probably know more about that than me.
Oh yeah, another discussion for another day.
That's right.
But
But
we will see a lot more of them.
the heat pump push is real, right?
Yeah.
It's coming, and the equipment is very impressive. I did a lot of VRV installs before coming over to TEC, and these things will produce heat in cold climate. I've seen it firsthand. I've installed it firsthand.
Absolutely.
They'll get the job done. But here's what I would ask. And let me say this. I've done quite a few designs, and whenever you're making a utility swap, what I mean by that, I have a picture for this. A utility swap, meaning the infrastructure that runs that piece of equipment has changed. For example, you've got a 40K furnace, and now you want to put it back with, let's just say, a 36,000 BTU heat pump. That's a game changer right there, right? Let's say that furnace is wanting to move about 120 CFM for every 10K BTU, right? That's about the airflow it's going to move. Now, this heat pump's going to move about 400 CFM per ton of air conditioning.
Do I have the ductwork?
That's a radical difference of capacity. So what I'm trying to say is the furnaces don't necessarily have to move nearly the amount of air to get the same heat capacity to the space as a heat pump does. A heat pump's going to have to move like 3 times more air for the same capacity, roughly, right? So knowing what your ductwork is capable of is crucial when you're going to make a utility swap on what the equipment's going to run on. And this is the world we're facing right here.
Absolutely, it is.
To heat pumps. And how do we handle that? Not only how do we handle that, you got to say, how do we handle that? How do we do it fast so we can still make money? Because we can't go home and play the designer for hours on end and drive our wife nuts.
Oh, are you saying you've been down that road before?
Yeah, I just cut out at me because we've spent many nights at the kitchen table. Man, look, she's been good as gold to me. There's many a nights where
crunching numbers.
I've had her reading blueprint lines for rooms so I could do loads and writes off on my laptop laying in bed. I've been there.
Yeah.
But so this is something me and Steve's co-owner of the company, president of the Energy Conservatory, he brought this up and we spitballed about it. And this came out to be really cool. So we call this right here forecasting. And so I'm going to let everybody see what we're working on.
Please do. I am very, very intrigued.
So let's say we've got, our grandmother's house right here, and she's got her furnace, right? And we want to know if we can put a heat pump in it. Let's say she doesn't have a ton of money, want to go back with a heat pump. She wants to go for that credit. How do we know we can make the ductwork work?
Exactly.
Right? That's a huge situation. So step one, you're going to run a Trueflow test.
Yep.
And that's what this is showing on the left side of the screen. This
with
is
the existing system.
This is the 40K furnace right here. We've got airflow, we've got total external static pressure, and we've got all our sub-pressure measurements like return plenum pressure, the filter drop, evaporator core pressure drop, and supply plenum pressure. Now, there's a button we added. It's called forecast, okay? So once you have that data on that system, we're going to walk this out. The next thing you're going to see is furnace to heat pump retrofit. Now, you can make a few decisions here. You can just change the airflow target. You could replace with a heat pump, replace with a furnace, or replace it with resistance heat. So you have the options.
Right.
But we want to replace with a heat pump. That's what we're talking about. So we made that selection. Now, once we make that selection, you'll have to give us a little bit more information.
Right.
We need to know if the coil is mounted inside with the blower, or is it mounted externally to the blower, right? Did it come as shipped coil inside, or did the coil come as a separate purchase? That's what
modular blower, cased assembly.
Right? And then we need to know your blower maximum total external static pressure on this new heat pump you're going to put in. If you can give me that information, this is what I'll give you. I will give you what I like to call active slider dials. So I will let you take from that existing report or produce you new dials. So the top line is desired filter and grill pressure drop. Okay. So you're going to move that slider and decide where you want the new filter and grill pressure drop to be. Then you're going to move your desired system heating capacity, right? We've selected 3 tons for this.
Sure.
When you move those slider dials, you're essentially changing the components of the ductwork that are easily I'm not gonna say easily, but expected sometimes to be changed during a change out, retrofit, whatever you want to call it. When you move those, all the homework is being done for you on the dials below. So your airflow
Wow.
and your total external static pressure, those needles are going to move. That's why they're blue, right? Those are my active dials, and they're going to rotate. And that's how you're basically designing your retrofit to see if what you want to put back is capable or not. Now, I'll take it one step further.
Please do, because I think I know where you're going with this. I want to find out.
So just because you know it's possible, now that we're proving it through, basic laws of airflow that we've known forever, now you can then generate a report. So if you want to go to your customer and say, hey, I want to do the heat pump replacement for you. Oh, and by the way, it will work because I have a report that says it will work based on my original flow target measurements. This is your forecasted report and your forecasted install right in front of you. So
I've got a question I've been dying to ask, and I tell you what, you've got Jose hook, line, and sinker on this one.
Let it rip, man. That's
what about hybrid dual fuel systems? My favorite combination.
So here's what I would say: if you have a dual fuel system right now, let me
wanting to go to a dual fuel.
Are you saying let me read the question. Is he asking how do we test it?
Yeah. So if we had an existing gas furnace and now we're looking at, okay, we're going to do a gas furnace and add heat pump. So we have a true dual fuel application.
Right. So here's what I'll tell you. In that application, I would test it in heat pump mode because you're going to move more airflow for the heat pump.
Exactly.
And if you want to report with the furnace running, then pick the furnace workflow and test it again with the furnace. You'll have two reports.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Because you essentially kind of have two systems at that point. You have heat pump heat and you have furnace heat.
With separate airflows.
And your heat pump's going to move a lot more air than your furnace. So that's the one I would be most concerned with external static pressure. Yeah, that's how I would handle that.
All right. Wow. That's pretty interesting stuff because we're going to be talking a lot going into 2024 here on Did You Know Show. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about cold climate heat pumps and what they are. Are they applicable for all areas? What is it going to take for me to look at an existing system? And just exactly like what you're talking about. How can I verify? How can I validate that I'm going to be successful when I do this conversion, especially if I'm going from a gas heating source into now a heat pump source, moving more air. And I love this. When we started talking about this, I was like, oh man, we got to get on the show and start ringing this bell for people about this opportunity.
I'm extremely excited about this option because let's face it, there's airflow tools on the market, but there's no airflow tool on the market that's going to forecast future installs. This is a first. This is a first run at this. So I'm pretty jazzed about it.
I love this. I've been kind of struggling with it as I'm putting together material for cold climate heat pump education. We start talking about how do you look at an existing ducted system to verify if you're going to be able to use a ducted heat pump on it. And there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down. Oh yeah. And now we have a very simple way of measuring.
We've definitely been working with manufacturers on this. Forecasting is something I think they're going to really, really want. Just the app alone as it sits is something they've drawn attention to, right? We're getting attention on that front. And the reason is because inverters are going in. Absolutely. And there's still that conversation that's happening that says, oh, you can go bigger. It's an inverter. It'll scale down, and that's still being sold. Right. And so what happens when it ramps all the way up? It's just going to fail.
Yeah. And then we always say.
And then what equipment manufacturer wants to go tell the person that just bought their equipment that you're not doing a good job? Nobody wants to be that guy. Nobody. I don't even want to be that guy.
No. Who does?
But I'm going to have to, right? Because that's the whole point. We make a tool that takes that measurement. So if I got to be the bad guy for the equipment manufacturers, then so be it. Somebody's got to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, we got to look at ductwork. We got to quote ductwork. So that takes me to one slide. So I'm going to skip a bunch.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, where is it? Oh, did I not put it in here? Bummer. I had a fun one, man.
Uh-oh. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that's just round 2. That's next month. That's
Yeah.
all. Or sometime that's a future episode.
It was just a fun one that says, before you bid, run the grid. You know?
Oh, man, what a slogan.
Yeah, that's the slogan.
You better trademark that before I get a hold of it.
Got to, man. 'Cause that's the whole point of this is like,
Sure.
I would ask people, how many times have you had to go replace ductwork that you really didn't want to and you just missed it?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm guilty of that. I have done it. Hand raised, right? I have had to go in homes and replace supply ductwork because I missed the mark and my external static pressure was too high.
Absolutely.
I've been there, right? You move fast, you get, I don't know, 10, 16 techs working underneath you. You're going as fast as you possibly can to line up installs, right? It always is happening probably somewhere right after about that first month in the summer where summer's wide open, right? And you're buried and you're trying to get a little bit of backlog going, you know what I'm saying? And so you're just moving as fast as you can.
Yeah. Now, 5 minutes, we can have that solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have an insurity blanket for sure.
I've seen some other slides in here. What else are you hiding from us?
All right. So here's what I will tell people. So the tool, it's got a price tag to it. I'm not going to say that it's like the cheapest tool on the market. It's not.
I wouldn't expect that to be.
But we're constantly enhancing it with more features and more features. So you're going to see a pipeline of new features coming out. So I think it's worth it. But here's my stepping stone. If you're going to take static pressure measurements, my advice is get a micromanometer, not a manometer, a micromanometer, right? Get something that measures in pascals and measures accurately in pascals. So this is our DG8 micromanometer. We created this gauge mainly to work with the Trueflow Grid because if we had to throw our DG1000 at it, it was going to raise the cross about another $1,500.
Okay.
So we had to come out with a single channel manometer that was less expensive. So what we decided though is through time is we've determined that, man, this little gauge is powerful. So when you buy the Trueflow, or if you don't buy the Trueflow and you buy a DG8 only as a stepping stone, nothing wrong with that. Here's what you can do with this gauge. So I'm just going to cover some use cases that the DG8 can pull off. For example, you can run a Trueflow with it. So you could start with static pressure mapping with a nice manometer. It's not going to drift, auto zeros, super accurate, right? And then build up to the Trueflow. But with just that manometer, here's something I just finished for TEC. Me and Steve worked on. We call it the Roomulator. And so this is a very simplistic device. It goes in your wallet. For example, they just came in and I just got mine just the other day. There it is. Bam, right? It's just a credit card, dude. And you take a pressure measurement from underneath the door and then you put the card next to the door. And as you open the door, you wait for the gauge to read to 3 pascals. Once you do that, you're going to measure the gap of the door. You're going to flip it to the back of the card, and it's going to tell you what size passive return you need to install for that room.
What?
Essentially, what we're trying to say is enough is enough with all this room pressurization problems that we have in America. It needs to go away.
Look at that.
So we're basically putting our foot down saying, here's where we're drawing the line. Because there's a lot of talk about what that measurement should be. And we're basically saying it needs to be 3 or less.
Right.
Here's what I'll tell you. I didn't want people searching for, K factors of grills or anything like that. No, man, this needs to be
something quick and easy.
A friend of mine would say, keep it simple, stupid.
Raise on that.
So that's exactly what we did with this. So there's 50% margin built in for a 90, 2 grills, 1 on each side. All that's built into the measurement. So when you go figure out what size drop you're going to do, you don't have to worry about, well, I got these grills. Does it matter? There's going to be enough fluff built into the measurements to take that and absorb it. So don't worry about it. Just trust the card and it'll get you there. And if you come in under 3 and you're at 2 pascals, so be it. That's even better, right?
Handy. All right.
That's a little handy tool.
I like that.
But you need a micromanometer to get that measurement.
Yeah, standard manometer is not going to get low enough.
So just going to run through some of these. So
Okay.
this, combustion, like appliance zone testing, right, is your hot water heater backdrafting. You could check that with this manometer. If you want to see if your draft is drafting, you can do that. And the reason I have this phone over here and these little app icons is because this gauge is Bluetooth. So you can, with that Trueflow app, it had pressure gauge. You can connect to it, and this is what it's going to
run individually. Okay.
Right. So here's one that's really building sciencey. But if you get to learn it, and this is what I will say, if you're in the chat and you want to challenge yourself and you haven't heard us talk about this before, give it a go, because this one's fun. This is where if you have an air conditioner with ductwork outside the thermal envelope, and let's say you've got dominant supply leakage, right? Let's say the return is sealed up really good. Single box return, lots of supply ductwork, and the supply ductwork's leaking 200 CFM.
Bunch of attic ductwork.
Yep. That's right. You can run a tube outside the door on a non-windy day, and you can see that ductwork is leaking. And we call that a dominant duct leakage test.
Yeah.
Well, I like to call it a dominant duct leakage screening. I call it a screening because it's not foolproof, meaning you could get a measurement and think that you don't have a problem when you do. But then you could also get a measurement that tells you do have a problem and it's trustworthy. There's a lot of talk that goes into that. And at some point, I probably need to make a video on it.
I think so. There's a lot of evaluating what that number is representing.
But when you fully understand how to do a dominant duct leakage test and you're confident with it, you will know that before you pull out, say, a duct blaster and go measure leakage, you will know it's worth it because you've already identified that there's significant leakage because you did a dominant duct leakage test that took about a minute. And so you know you're going to find something.
It's the blood pressure test before the stress test.
That's right. All right. So this gets a little building sciencey, but if you run a blower door, you can do ZPD testing. That's zonal pressure diagnostics. So that's pretty advanced. We have webinars if you want to watch it on that. When you're doing that ZPD, you could hook it to a pressure pan, look for like dominant supply duct leakage somewhere, right? And you can also use it with an exhaust fan flow meter. If you want to measure exhaust from your bathroom fan, you hook your DG8 to our exhaust fan flow meter box and pull that measurement. So there's a lot of accessories you could tie to this little gauge.
All right. Andy, too.
Oh, I got Clifton.
That's it. Look at that. We're right up on time, too. That was a perfect presentation.
Like almost timed it just right. Got like 1:30 left.
That's right. Yay. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's like, how do you make building science fun? You bring Chris Hughes in. That's how you do that. And you put him on Did You Know Show.
No, it's fun, man. I enjoyed it. I'm glad we got to do the lab setup. I was pretty excited about that.
Me as well. That was perfect.
Yeah. So, you know what I should have did and I didn't, but if anybody's got any questions after this, if they want to reach me, I didn't put a slide for that, but I'll throw it out there. My email is the letter C, Hughes, my last name, Hughes. So chughes @energyconservatory.com. So.
Hold on, I'll get it in there for you.
There you go.
Energy Conservatory, as long as I spelled it right. I should have. And we got just a couple minutes for anyone joining us that wants to add any comments. Hop in there. I know it sometimes takes a minute, especially when you're joining from YouTube. Could take a second for them to pop through. So we'll give just a second in case anyone else wants to join. And Chris, tell us about some places where people can see you. We talked about being at AHR. We talked about being at the HVAC Symposium, the National HVACR Education Conference. Are you going to have a live demo at the conference this year?
Yes. So we should talk about that. If you're going to the ESCO show, HVAC Excellence show, we will have a booth. We will have a full operating HVAC system there with a condenser, and we will be running true flow tests with the tool. I can't tell you heat mode will be out by then, but I expect it to probably be. Yeah. And if my boss is watching it, sorry.
He's like, what are you doing? Tell everyone about this.
He's like, you can't tell people it's going to be ready.
We're just going to make sure they're all there just in case. If not, we'll have a good following of people when it is ready.
Yeah. No, we should be good. So maybe forecasting will be ready by then. I'm hoping, so we're working hard to get these done because we truly feel the industry is in need of something like forecasting. So
Absolutely, they are. There's
Yep.
going to be a lot of system retrofits going forward. There's going to be a lot of fuel conversions. You kind of talked about that a while ago. So we're going to have to understand the capabilities of our ducts when we're going with a ducted heat pump, especially our cold climate inverter heat pumps. So a lot to learn there. So I don't see any. I got a few people in there saying great presentations. Paul, thanks for joining us. Todd, a lot of people out there that have hung around. There's still a bunch of people out there. And we thank you all for joining us. And make sure to tell your friends and other HVACR professionals about what we do here on the Did You Know Show. I mean, every week we bring in a new professional to dive into what's changing, what's trending, what's cool, what new innovations are out there. And we want you to be a part of that. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications if you're joining us from YouTube. If you're on LinkedIn, make sure to, we send that invitation out every week to put the notifications on so it add it to your calendar. And we really look forward to seeing you again next time. And Chris, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here and how much fun it is to learn about this.
Man, tons of fun.
It is.
Life's a journey, man. Gotta keep it fun.
All right. Well, I think we will wrap it up. I hear the music getting cued in. So we thank you all so much for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. And we will see you again next week, right after this new year. And even though I'm on vacation, I couldn't miss this. I really look forward to being here with you all every week. So I'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.